Hello and welcome everyone to today's workshop on the Inlaks Shivdasani Foundation scholarships. Um, very quickly, I'll tell you what we'll be discussing in today's workshop. So I will introduce you to Project EduAccess and to the two panelists who have joined us today. And I'll hand it over to them, who will then talk to you about the scholarship. They'll give you an overview. They'll discuss with you the timeline, the eligibility of the scholarship, what the application process looks like, what is the selection procedure, what are the application documents that you need to submit. Then we'll also do a live demonstration of just taking you through the application portal itself, show you what it looks like and how you have to just sort of input your data and information and what you have to upload. And then we'll discuss a little bit about the interview, which is a part of the application process and the selection procedure. And then both our speakers will give you some general tips about the application that you make. So we are Project EduAccess. We believe that access to higher education, leadership and professional opportunities is a privilege that most people from marginalized communities are systematically denied through cost, information, and dispositional barriers. Project EduAccess attempts to improve inclusivity in these spaces by removing some of these barriers for marginalized communities. And we try to do this by providing mentorship, engaging in advocacy, and running online and in-person capacity building workshops. And today's workshop is a part of our series of online workshops on various scholarship opportunities to pursue higher education abroad. To um, do this, we have with us two really wonderful panelists. We have with us Sanya, who is pursuing her MPhil in South Asian Studies at University of Cambridge. And we have with us Khushboo, who's doing a Master's in Fine Arts from Goldsmiths University in London. Both of them are are Inlaks scholars. You would have seen Khushboo in our previous workshop on graduate applications for um, creative arts. And so if you are interested in fine arts or any other creative arts, I'd recommend you have a look at that video. And Sanya was, in fact, a mentee with us last year on the India Graduate Mentorship Program. So it's really wonderful to have Sanya on this side this year, talking to all of you about the scholarship that she received. So thank you, Sanya and Khushboo, for joining us today. And I will hand it over to you.
Hi, hello everyone. Let's start with a brief introduction of the scholarship, what it is. It's the overview of the scholarship is that it's granted to Indian students for full-time masters or PhD programs in the universities in America, UK, and European institutes. It's the award amount is USD 1 lakh. So it covers tuition fees as well as living allowance, healthcare, and one-way airfare as well. It's mostly covers most of the thing. And in case if you have joined any of the institute which has joint arrangement with the foundation like RCA or Cambridge or King's College, then you get additional amount as well. So your overall tuition as well as funding that is required for maintenance can exceed the 1 lakh amount that has been mentioned. Please, what can we move to the next one? I'm so sorry for my voice. So it covers most of the courses, but the foundation does not fund the courses that are listed here, which are business and finance, computer science, engineering, but with an exception, if the engineering and natural sciences programs are taken in Imperial College London, then those applications are considered. Fashion design, film animation. But if it's a documentary filmmaking, then the applications are considered. Hospitality and tourism, Indian studies without any contemporary relevance, and any of the management study course, any of the public health, medicine, dentistry, or related paramedical courses, as well as music. But in music, Western classical singing courses are considered. So what's the timeline? If you've already been through the application page on the website, then the applications have already opened, and applications must be submitted by 22nd of March by 12 noon. The foundation's website gets jammed very closer to the date, and it's uh, and there's no extension to the deadline, so make sure to stick to them. So if there are any, so there are a lot of there's always questions of till how long the referral links are valid. So it's like it's valid till the 7 days after you have submitted the application. So if one submits the application on the last date, on the date of the deadline, that is 22nd of March, then your referee has time till 29th of March to upload their reference letters. And for the first round of interviews, for preliminary interviews, the shortlisted candidates would be selected, and they'd be contacted by the foundation by 19th of April. And those who do not receive any communication by the foundation, their applications have not been selected, they should move forward then. It's mostly very later in May or June that one gets a response from the foundation that their applications have not been selected, if the applications are not selected. So preliminary interviews are usually, they take place in May, and after 20, almost 15, 20 days after that, by the end of May or beginning of June, final interviews take place. Preliminary interviews usually are online. They are taken virtually, and final interviews are conducted in person. And the best thing is that on the day of the second interview itself, final decisions and the results are announced. So eligibility criteria is that one needs to hold a Indian passport, that is, have Indian citizenship to be able to apply for Inlaks Shivdasani scholarship. And one needs a degree from a recognized university in India to be able to apply. So anyone who has studied abroad as well for their undergraduate degree, they are also eligible for a master, to apply for the application of a master's degree to study abroad in the areas and in the universities in those countries that are mentioned previously. But they need to be at least living in India prior to their application, like 2 years. They've at least lived 2 years in India prior to making their application. And anyone who has already got a postgraduate qualifications from the universities abroad, they are not eligible to apply. And anyone who has already started their postgraduate studies in any of the institutes or universities abroad, they are also not eligible. Their applications won't be considered. And it's the most important thing is one needs a confirmation of admission prior to making application. This time, I've seen on the website there has been a bit of leniency that if you are still waiting for the confirmation of your admission or to get a final admission letter, you can send it by 30th of March, but you need to send a confirmation email of like you're waiting for the response from the institute, or you're waiting for the final letter of confirmation from the institute. Eligibility criteria in terms of other things like um, language certificates. So English language certificate, of course, if your conditions on your admission require you to have an English language certification, then that also needs to be provided during the application process. And another very important thing, if anyone has a deferred offer of admission, they should have a new offer letter for the year they are applying for the scholarship. And so anyone below the age of anyone 30 or below the age of 30 are eligible to apply. So for this year, it would be anyone born on or after 1st January 1994 are eligible to apply for this year. And some of the minimum requirements or academic requirements are for social sciences, humanities, law, fine arts, architecture, or other creative fields. The minimum grade is 65% or CGPA of 6.8 or GPA of 2.6 from renowned institutes in India. And for STEM subjects and for environment and related studies, applicants' minimum grade is 70% and CGPA of 7.2 or GPA of 2.8 from any of recognized institute in India. In case there's some, if your academic grade are lower than that, then those need to be justified in the application in the form of SOP or through your CV or experience.
Fun.
Sorry, just a second. My screen froze. Sorry. Yeah. Sanya, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'll just cover the remaining slides. Applications for the scholarship must be made online. The application portal can be accessed here. So this is the link where you can access the portal. So only one submission per candidate will be accepted. You cannot save your progress while completing the online application, and you will not be able to edit the application after submission. So the thing is that this form, you can fill the form, but you cannot save the progress. So you have to do the entire form in one sitting. So you can write your answers elsewhere and then paste them. But yes, you cannot save the progress. So please take screenshots as you progress through the online application and before you submit in case something goes wrong. So when I was submitting my application, I had to, like, I did everything and then I hit submit. And then the entire application opened in front of me. It wasn't like I did not receive anything, any acknowledgement via email, or the screen didn't say anything that I had submitted. So I had to literally do that more than 20 times, like do the entire thing again and again. So yeah, so just keep a good amount of time for that form itself, because it's quite challenging, like technically. So yeah. The online portal will not accept applications that do not meet the academic and financial eligibility criteria. So make sure that you meet the academic and financial eligibility. So academic, like, it is there on the website for the eligibilities. I think it's like you need to have 6.8 CGPA for those who are coming from social sciences and humanities background, and for STEM people, it's slightly high, around 7.2. Candidates must provide official email addresses for 2 referees, of which one must be an academic referee. The referees will then receive links to upload their reference letters. These links are valid for 7 days and cannot be extended. For applications made on 22nd March 2024, the referee link will be valid for 7 days post submissions till 29th March. So you have to give 2 references. One has to be an academic referee. Both can also be academic, but if you don't have 2 academic references, then it's okay if you submit 1 professional. But there cannot be 2 professional references. One has to be academic. And once you submit your application, as Khushboo mentioned, the referee link will remain valid for 7 days post submission. So if you're submitting on 22nd, I would recommend that you do not submit on 22nd because the deadline is 12 noon. And like I said, last year I faced problems and a lot of other people also. And some of them could not submit before the deadline. So they had to email the committee, the technical committee at Inlaks, and then they asked them to sort of email their stuff and everything. So try to save yourself from that trouble and try submitting it by 21st March latest. So if you submit on 21st March, then 7 days post the submission of your application, till 7 days, the referee link will be valid. Yeah. An independent Inlaks selection committee is appointed to select successful applications for scholarships. So it's like they appoint people to go through your applications, and the people who evaluate your applications are also academics or experts from the field that you are coming from. So these are the people who go through your applications and select you or shortlist you for interviews. Applicants are judged on not only their past and present achievements, but also on their future potential. Candidates applying for scholarships in art and design, fine performing arts, will be judged primarily on the basis of their portfolios. So it's like they do not just pay attention to your CV and the work experience that you've had, but they also take into consideration what you are aspiring to do now with regard to your course. Like if it's a research degree, then what matters is what is the research question and what is the idea that you're going to work on. Even if it's not a research degree, even if it's like an MSc or something, then it's good to give them some idea of the direction that you want to take your course in and what contribution you can make to your field. So it's important to highlight these aspects of your profile. Khushboo, would you like to add anything about the portfolios bit?
Yes, for creative fields, for art, design, architecture, performing arts, or music, or any other of the creative fields, the scholarship selection procedure is the primary basis is portfolios. Our portfolios are considered most for that.
Yeah. So I think there was one more point. Yeah. The selection process consists of 3 stages: review of eligible applications, preliminary interviews with candidates chosen from the interview round, final interview with those who succeed in the preliminary round. So your applications will be assessed, and then they will shortlist you on the basis of your application for the preliminary interview, which will take place in May. And so around 200 people are selected for this interview. It sounds like a really large number, but it is because Inlaks is very wide in scope. So there are a huge number. The application turnout is very huge. So 200 people for the first interview, and then for the second interview, they select around 35 to 40. And after that, they bring it down to somewhere between 9 to 12 people who get the scholarship. Yeah. Application documents. Applicants are expected to have the following application documents in PDF format ready: copy of passport, resume, photograph, offer letter, fee statement. So fee statement is, I don't know about other universities, but I can speak for Cambridge and Oxford. So They don't really give a separate fee statement. So I think the offer that you will receive, it will have a breakdown of the cost. So your tuition fee and your living expenses. So they give you an estimate as to how much money you'll need in order to be able to live and study in the UK. So that is your fee statement. So you just upload that offer letter in the fee statement column. Proof of other sources of funding, such as personal bank statements, parents' bank statements with letter of authority, personal investment documents, or approval letter of educational loan. So in the application form, they'll ask you as to how much money you need. So for example, I needed everything. Like I could not have managed without full funding. So I just, sorry, is anyone saying something?
Sorry, I just muted them, so it's fine.
Okay.
If you have any question, please wait for the presentation to end, or you can keep putting them in chat, and we'll address them after the presentation is done.
Yeah. So they ask you as to how much money you need, and if you need the full amount, you can like write the full thing. Some people do not ask for the full amount, and because they can, fund a bit of their study themselves. So for that, you'll have to provide evidence. Like you can show them personal bank statements, parents' bank statements, etc. If you're getting an educational loan, you have to provide the letter for that. And if you have another scholarship, then also you'll have to provide some kind of evidence. But yes, if you are someone who is fully entirely dependent on this scholarship, then it's okay to say that you need the entire amount. Academic transcripts, 2 recommendation letters to be uploaded by referees, of which one must be an academic referee. English language test results. So yeah, if your offer has this condition that you need to pass an English language exam, then you'll have to do that as soon as possible, because your Inlaks application won't be considered valid if you don't have the English language test results with you at the time of applying. Applicants for architecture, fine and applied art, and related subjects must upload their portfolios in PDF file format. I think Khushboo can take this up.
So again, as I previously mentioned, that any of the creative fields where the portfolios are required, so we demonstrate in the a live demonstration of the application page as well. Like you won't see the link until unless you type your field or the subject area, and then only the link then only you see the drop down menu or the upload menu for the portfolios. And for the creative writing, for media or journalism, writing samples or writing links are to be added. For performing arts, hyperlinks are to be added, and it's very essential whatever links from Vimeo, YouTube, or from your Google Drive, whichever are used, from whichever are put in, they are accessible, and one doesn't require permissions to access them. I'd also like to mention one thing about the source of funding. So, in case if one is applicant is applying for a 2-year course and the funding that they require exceeds the funding amount that Inlaks has mentioned, then in addition to attaching personal bank statements or parents' bank statements or other approval, education loan approval letters or investment documents, one can also, if you have a family member or a friend or anyone that can support with the additional amount, they can add that and the letter from that person or from that individual or an organization or anyone that they are happy and willing to contribute to your funding for this much amount. Yeah, that's it. That's it from my side.
Yes, applicants are also expected to submit the following information: statement of purpose, 400 words to describe your proposed course and its relevance to your career goals, and give reasons for pursuing study abroad. So this has to be a very concise statement. It's just 400 words. So here you're going to talk about why you want to pursue this course, why it's relevant to your future aspirations, and what brought you to this course, why do you want to pursue study abroad. So this is like a more general way of going about it. And I understand that since this is a scholarship statement, you might be more inclined towards talking about your background, your financial background, and your personal background, etc., and the difficulties that we have faced and all. But I'm not sure how much that helps as far as the Inlaks application is concerned, because it's not a need-based scholarship. It's a merit-based scholarship. I mean, as problematic as the idea of merit may be, this is what it is. So talk about your background, yes, but then try to weave that into your academic statement. Don't just like list stuff out there, because they won't take that into consideration unless they know how that is informing your academic interests. So your background matters, but then you also have to connect it with why it sort of led you into taking an interest into this particular course and these ideas within your field. So one way to do is to just talk about your general motivations, etc., and your interest in the course. And another way to do it, which is something that I did, like in the beginning, just very briefly in 3 or 4 lines, I said a little about my background and how that informs my interest. And then for the rest of the statement, like I just focused on my research proposal, and I just fleshed out my research proposal for them, because the people who read your applications are academics from the same field or from similar fields. So if you are able to put forward a convincing and a coherent statement about your academic interests and what kind of shape you want to give them, then it is something that stands out. It is something that makes them take more interest in what you're proposing. So rather than, because everybody is interested in the course, everybody has had some experiences that brought them to that course, but they are actually interested in understanding what you now plan to do since you have now gotten admission into the course. What is it that you want to make of it? And what is the contribution that you can make to your field? So it's okay if you don't have like PhD students. Of course, there is no way that you can get selected for the interview if you don't put forward if you don't explain your research proposal. But master students as well, I'm sure all of you will have some idea of what you want to work on for your dissertation. It's okay if it's not that detailed, but for the sake of this application, if you can really think hard about it and spend some time on it, I think it will really help in you getting selected for the interview, because they're receiving a huge number of applications. So I think it's your research proposal that sort of catches their interest more than other general stuff. Yeah. So statement on work experience, projects pursued, 400 words to describe your present occupation and achievements to date. So you just talk about your work experience, what you have done, and do not just list a lot of things, but maybe focus on 2-3 projects that you did and describe in detail what you did there, because that's more interesting. They already have your CV to know everything that you have done, but here you should pick out 2 or 3 things that are really important according to you, and just explain what kind of work you did there, and also try to connect it in some way to your statement of purpose. So both the statements should not be completely unrelated. So one should feed into the other, and yeah, so you can talk about how these experiences, these work experiences and these projects that you pursued stimulated your interest into a certain question which you now want to explore in your dissertation for your postgrad study. So something like along those lines. Academic distinctions, grants, scholarships, prizes awarded. So if you received any awards in your bachelor's or in your master's has to be from India. But yeah, if you have these awards, then there'll be a column on the application form where you can just upload a document which lists it just has to be a simple list with all your achievements, academic achievements. No evidence needed, so you don't have to provide certificates or anything. So that document is enough. It's okay if you don't have if you haven't won awards. I hadn't. I literally uploaded nothing for this section. So yeah, it's okay if you didn't get any awards in DU. Extracurricular attainments, yeah, you can write a few, whatever you have done, you can just write there. Again, no certificate, nothing, just a simple Word document listing what you did. Yeah, but I mean, they do not ask for evidence, but and so a lot of times people do feel tempted to just make stuff up and upload something because but don't do that. I had not uploaded anything for academic awards, and it's okay. I don't think it plays that huge a role. Yeah.
So just before we move to the next slide, Khushboo, if you want to add anything about the statement of purpose and statement of work experience and project, do you want to add? And then maybe we can move to the demonstration.
Yes, well, thank you. Yeah, I'd say the same thing that Sanya mentioned, which is it's okay to not add around anything about academic distinctions or any prizes or grants that you have received. I also didn't add anything. And for extracurricular attainments, it, there could be extracurricular stuff that you have done if you would have done those in your academics, alongside your academics in the institutes that you have studied or outside of that as well. And they could be related to the field or not related to the field as well, or they could be something totally different. But if you feel like those were some important stuff, do add that. It just adds a value in a way that what are your, it just shows your overall mm, expense on what are your other interest areas. But again, as said, if you don't want to mention it or you don't feel like um, uh, those are important things that you would like to share, it's completely okay to not share those because you won't be judged solely based on that because they're optional. And for present occupation and achievements, um, those could be the those could be not necessarily just the experiences that you have gained in your academics or in any of the work experiences at different workplaces or internships or volunteering. Those could be any challenges and stuff that you have faced in that, and how did you negotiate, or what did you do, how did you approach those problems, how did you solve them? Those could also be added in there. And I'd again mention to not just list down those things as one list in the series. Instead, going a bit in detail, given there are 400 words, one can go a bit in detail about um, what what was the thing, what did you do, what was the outcome. These three things, if those are mentioned for one or two things, that's more than sufficient. That's it from my side.
Okay. Um, so we'll quickly go over the application portal and see what it looks like. And so just in case there's questions about that, we can address them as well. But as so we already mentioned the link where you'll get this. Oh, sorry. Okay, you'll see my screen. Can you see the application portal? Khushboo, Sanya. Okay. So Sanya, if you want to start, and Khushboo, you can add your.
Yeah, so the first section is about personal information, so date of birth, the name, middle name, last name, select gender, identity proof, so you can upload your passport here, then resume. I think there is a maximum file size, so just make sure that it is within that. Uh, then you have to upload a photo and phone number, telephone number, email. Email you'll have to verify, so they'll send you a link and then you verify that, put the verification code. Applicants present occupation, so if you're a student you can just write student, or if you're working then you mention your occupation, address for correspondence. You have to provide your address here. If the correspondence address is the same as permanent address, you tick the same as above box, otherwise you write your permanent address as well. Then profession of parents, guardian, you write about that. Then where did you hear about Inlaks scholarships? You mention, and then proposed program. If is your admission conditional? So you answer that. Institution, city, country, offer letter. So city and country, like where your which country you have received an offer from and which city your institution is located in. You have to upload the offer letter here. Then subject, which is the name of which degree it is, like what is the subject that you're going to pursue, degree like MPhil, PhD, MSc, course name, then university address, date from, date to. So this will be there on your offer letter, like where when your course is starting and when it's ending. Exact duration of the course in months. So you calculate the duration. I think this will also be there on the offer letter itself. So just write that. Total tuition fee, health insurance, living allowance, auto-calculated. So you just have to write the tuition fee and the health insurance. Living allowance is something that they calculate themselves. Fee statement, as I said, I'm not sure about every university, but mostly it's your offer letter, because the offer letter does mention about your fee and how much you'll be needing. Total tuition fee, health insurance plus living allowance. So this will be auto-calculated. You don't have to do it. Have you applied for any additional grants, fee concessions for the above course? So if you have, you mention yes, otherwise no. Other sources, that is personal resources, loans, so just tell them about that. Funds required for the whole period from Inlaks. That's the auto-calculated again. If your university institution requires any of the following test scores, enter them here. So as I said earlier, when you're applying for Inlaks, you should have your English language test scores if that is a condition on your offer. A lot of universities give exemptions, so that's okay. So Inlaks does not require you to give the English language test. It's your university. If your university says that you have to give it, then you'll have to give it for Inlaks. Otherwise, if you have an exemption from your university, you don't need to do anything. University education, enter all your qualifications starting with your undergraduate degree. Use the plus sign to insert additional degrees. So yeah, bachelor onwards, whatever degrees you have had, you'll have to write about them here and upload the mark sheets as well. Academic distinctions, grant scholarships, prizes awarded. This is that section where you just write about all your achievements in a single document and upload them here. Extracurricular achievements, the same process. Work experience, projects pursued. Yeah, you just write about your work experience here. Describe below your present occupation achievements to date, 400 words. So yeah, that's the statement about your work experience, which we discussed earlier. So the first part is talking about where you have to just list what you did, organization start date, end date, designation, and then in the statement you go into more details. Statement of purpose. So you just have to upload that. Not upload that. You have to type it here, like copy paste it. Have you previously been interviewed for an Inlaks scholarship? You answer these questions. Have you been living in India continuously for the past 6 months? Have you received any other grant from Inlaks? So you need to be living. If you have not been living in India for the past 6 months, you are not eligible for the scholarship. Then you write the names and you give the email addresses and phone numbers of your referees, and the Inlaks committee will reach out to your referees themselves. You don't have to upload the letters. And yeah, then there's the declaration and you submit. After you submit, you will get an acknowledgement from Inlaks via email that your application has been successfully submitted. If you do not get that acknowledgement, it means that your application was not submitted. So make sure that you get that acknowledgement. Yeah.
May I add a few things in there?
Yeah.
So when in the first section, when for the creative fields, if you have added your field or area of interest, and then a prompt comes in for you to upload a portfolio for all the documents. Make sure all your documents are under the limit of weightage, like how heavy the files should be, and all the files need to be in PDF format, not in doc or any other format, but .pdf format, and the photos are to be in JPEG format. Or any letters or anything that you are uploading, those also needs to be in .pdf format. For the fee statement, if it is not mentioned on your say offer letter, or then you can go to your university website, and usually they have it like what's the fee structure like for that year. You find your course and take a screenshot of it, or save that page, edit it, highlight that's your course, that's the fee structure like. Make it a bit easier for the application team to go through your documents so that they don't have to spend a lot on technical things. You highlight them yourselves. For the health insurance, for UK, you can go to gov.uk to find what's the health insurance like for that year. And if your course is 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years, depending on that, you write the total amount in that section. For US, it's mostly through the university. You'd ask your institute or university about estimate of your health insurance. I'm not familiar with what it's like for the European countries and European institutes, so it would be better to ask the universities themselves for that and have a clarity on that. So the amount that you mentioned should be the exact amount that you need. That's really very important.
Thank you, Khushboo. Okay, great. So now we move on to the next. Sani. You're on mute, Sani. Still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So I'll talk about interviews and a bit about my experience, and then Khushboo can add to that. So there are 2 rounds of interviews. Round 1, technical round, a panel made of experts in your stream. For example, the science panel is made up of a physicist, mathematician, biologist, and chemist. This panel will most likely contain someone who's an expert in your area of study. They go over your CV, your work experience, and ask you technical questions relating to your subject area. So this round is technical, which is the panel mostly yeah, so everyone is from the same background as yours, same disciplinary background, not the same discipline, but it's like similar discipline. So I came from a political science background, and I was going for, more I was going for more anthropological work. So my panel had a historian and a critical theorist and a political scientist and a philosopher. So so these are people who are really good in their fields, and their technical round is like fairly technical. So they'll sit with your CV, they'll sit with your SOP, and they will ask you questions based on that. So if you really know what you are doing, if you have a research proposal, if you're an MPhil or a PhD student, then this round will be entirely focused on that, where they'll ask you questions. So yeah, you have to be very well aware of what is it that you want to do, and you have to be aware of the different debates that exist within your field, and what is the existing literature, what does the existing literature say on this topic, and where does your intervention lie, what is the contribution that you are making. So you'll have to justify all of these things in the interview, because they'll ask you questions around these themes. And yeah, so if you're very comfortable with your research proposal, if you have good knowledge about your proposal and about about the debates and themes that revolve around that, then the technical round is it becomes more of a discussion rather than an interview. So it's not like they are asking you questions and you are answering them. Rather, it is they are also interested in knowing what is it that you are trying to do. So you explain it to them, and then they are just curious about certain things, so they'll ask, etc. So it's challenging, it's quite technical, but yeah, if you really work on your proposal, if you think about it, if you spend some time on it, on reading secondary literature, etc., you'll be able to navigate this fairly easily. But yeah, just I mean, they will expect you to have a fairly good knowledge of your field, because like one of my interviewers he was a critical theorist from the University of Chicago. One was a historian from the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. So, and they were like very well-known people. So yeah, their questions are quite academic, very academically inclined, and very nuanced also. So for example, I mentioned an author whose work I wanted to build upon, and they put forward a critique of that author, and I was aware of that critique, so I was able to engage with it. So yeah, it's just important for you to know who are the people in this field who have worked around the theme that you are interested in, what are the various critiques of their work, and how you want to engage with them, what is it that you want to add to their work, like how you'll build upon that work, and yeah, where does your intervention, does your research question and your research idea lie within the existing literature. So this is basically what the interview will revolve around. But it depends. Like I was coming from a social sciences background. I was going for an MPhil, so this was my experience. But people from creative fields would have had a different experience. So yeah. Then general round panel made up of a mix. So this is round 2. If you get through the technical round, you will be invited for another round, which is going to be more general. Panel made up of a mix of the panelists from previous interview as well as longtime members of the Inlaks Foundation. For me, both, like, there was no one from the previous interview in my panel for the second interview. Yeah. So both the panels had different people, but both, as I said earlier, were experts in the same field as mine. This is a more general interview where they gauge your overall motivation and suitability to pursue your proposed degree at this stage. They also focus on the monetary amount that you have requested and decide whether it is justified to fund you. Okay, so this is what generally happens, that the first round is technical and the second is general. But for me, I don't know, for some reason, the general round was even more technical than the technical. The technical round was fairly technical in and of itself, but the general round was also technical because they also did the same thing. They had my CV, they had my SOP, and they picked things from there. They picked concepts that I had talked about and were like, why are you using this particular terminology? Why not that term? And then, I had to justify it. So there was a lot of grilling that happened in the second interview, where they were like, no, I'm afraid that I only partially agree with what you said. And they were in some way trying to play the devil's advocate just to see how I would defend my ideas. So yeah, but it was extremely technical. They did not ask me a single general question. They did not ask me what is it that I want to do in the future, etc., or what were my motivations, what brought me to this course. Nothing of that sort. So both the rounds for me were very technical. So it depends. Like generally, the second round will be general, but just be prepared for it being technical as well. Yeah. So Khushboo, you wanna add something?
Yes, for creative fields, it's a bit different. Technical round is technical, but as we have already submitted our portfolios or your writing samples or your video links, the technical round would involve talking about it, talking about your work, either you sharing something about your work or the panel asking you a few questions because you have been there. They are curious about your practice and why you do what you are doing, how did you do that and everything. So being very, very clear of your practice, what's it's like, what are your motivations, what are you doing in that, everything. That's why your portfolio needs to be really something that tells everything about your practice and your motivation, and your ambitions in a way, like what there's scope in there. So technical round would be mostly around that. There would be some questions around your work experience or your CV. So one needs to be really, really thorough with their CV. There's no need to add additional things. So just if one sticks to the CV and the portfolio, it's that whole interview round would be mostly around that. Sometimes it would be something that you'd have to justify, but if there's some questions that one doesn't know about, it's okay to say that you are not aware of them and you go back and read about them or search about them or learn about them later. Also, during my interview, I was asked a few questions about, do I know of other creative people who have similar interests, and if I've gone through their work and stuff. And I went through some of the works of the artists that they have mentioned. Others I didn't know, and I simply said I didn't know them, and I noted down those names, and it's like I'd go back after the interview and I'd find about them. I found the technical round to be, even if one doesn't make it to the final round, the technical round itself for the creative people, it's more of one gets really good feedback of their work from a expert perspective, and that's something one can take forward with them, even if one doesn't make it to the second round, and if they make it, well and good. And so technical round needs to be, creative people needs to be very thorough with their portfolios for that. For general round, I had a bit easy general round, as none of the panelists from the first round were there in round 2, and no experts from creative fields were there. They were mostly from other streams. So they mostly went through my SOP and my general motivation of why I want to pursue a particular degree. And I was asked this in my technical as well as general round of why a particular university. So I'm currently at Goldsmiths, and there are other universities in fine arts, or there are in creative fields which are ranked #1 in the world or in the country that I was looking for admissions. And I was asked reasons of why I chose this and not that. So one needs to be a bit thorough of your choice of choosing a university, particular university as well. Shall we move forward? Yes. So, some general tips around approaching the application process and SOPs and any other written documents that you need to submit. Sorry. So one thing that I throughout these years through applying to different universities and scholarships, I've learned to tell a story. It's mostly your SOP or personal statement, though they are different, but personal statement is more about personal motivations and what prompted you to do something. And in SOP, one generally focuses on um, any of the academic motivations that motivated you want to go into that particular field or generated interest in a particular stream. And so it's really important to know what you are doing and why are you doing that. So if you can convey that kind of gives an overall idea to the person who's reading your application about what are your, and that overall covers your ambitions, your academic goals, and gives them a reason to understand why you want to do a particular course at a particular university. For creative fields, the portfolio is really important. I'd emphasize on making a simple and clear portfolio. I made my portfolio on Canva. I didn't use any of other softwares and stuff. I just made sure that quality of the images that I'm putting in is clear. If for artwork or for architectural works or design works, just make sure to have clear images. If there are some detailed images you want to add them. Do not overpopulate the portfolio. I wouldn't say that I know exactly what is the right amount of works to be put in there, but recent works and the works done in last 2-3 years is a good amount to add, and that kind of shows your overall growth. Be very precise in what you are sharing in your portfolio, because as creative applications are are considered on basis of the portfolios. So it's important to focus more on that. And I found this one thing very useful, like, of course, one should add about the title, medium, and other related things. If you're not adding size, that's okay. But if those are sculptural works or installation, it's good to add sizes as well. And below that, if one could write in a line or two about the work instead of writing huge paragraphs, just briefly telling about a little bit about the work, that's more than sufficient. Then creating a very clear, concise, and precise CV is important. Try to keep your CV within 2 pages, 2 A4 size papers, and not more than that, because it's not a resume. Do not treat it as one. There doesn't need to be thorough explanation and thorough details of what you did in particular roles and stuff. They need to be quick snippets about your curriculum, Vite, and there's no need to go into too much detail over there. I added my volunteering experiences because some of them were related to my chosen fields and I found them helpful to be added there. Sorry. Another important thing, if you're changing fields or if you're changing area of interest, as in I talk in terms of creative fields, if one is going from say architecture to history or history of architecture, though they are related fields, but they are still, the degrees are not in a linear fashion and they are not exactly the same uh, uh, progression in the degrees. So it's very essential that you add that in the SOP. Link it in a way like you were doing this, and that prompted you, or that uh, increased your interest in this field that you have chosen right now. And these questions, if you are changing fields or if you are um, uh, going in a bit of a different field, for the creative field especially, one would be asked questions around that in the technical round. And if you're changing degrees, like if your bachelor's were in something else and if you want to do a master's in another field or a related field but not the same progression in the degree, then be really prepared to justify that change or to share that motivation. Now, Sanya, over to you.
Yeah. I think there was one point in the previous slide. Yeah. So if you're going for a more research-oriented degree, you should clearly delineate your research interests and lay out the relevance of your research question in the SOP. So if you're going for an MPhil or a PhD, then it's important that you talk about what your research interests are, how you arrived at them, and what is the relevance of your research question. Like, what is it that you are trying to explore? So a research question is not something that you already have an answer to. So it's just a question, and you have a sense of where that question is located within the wider literature and what is your methodology, what is the approach that you are going to take for exploring this question, right? So that is what you have to write. You don't have to give the answer to that question because you haven't researched it yet, right? So, but they should get a clear sense of what is it that interests you and what brought you to this particular interest and how you are going to explore that. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. Explain what brought you to these specific research interests or questions, and so your motivation for exploring something can either be intellectual or personal, ideally a mix of both. So you talk, so this will also give you a chance to talk about your personal background if that is something you feel is important and relevant as far as your academic statement is concerned. So you can weave your personal experiences into your intellectual curiosities and then, present a case for why you think that exploring this particular problem is important. So just write that really clearly. Avoid the use of jargon if you think you'll not be able to coherently engage with it in the interview. So when you are writing your statements, a lot of times you might feel tempted to use academic jargon and big words, but do not use them if you are, so write these words only if you fully understand them, because you will be asked about them in the interview. So when you are talking about a certain concept, be aware that every concept in academia, at least in social sciences and like otherwise as well, there are a lot of debates happening with regard to that concept, right? There are a lot of layers to it, so you should be aware of everything before you write these things, because as I said, the panel is made of experts and they are going to question you on that. They also will question you on your choice of terminology. So they'll say that why did you use this word and not that word? So you need to be aware of, the different nuances of why you chose to use a particular word and why that. For example, they asked me, I had used the word theopolitical, and they said, why are you saying theopolitical? Why not religiopolitical? Right? So then I had to sort of explain the difference between theology and religion and its relationship with ethics and politics. So that kind of technical, interrogation you can expect from them. So when you're writing these kind of words, when you're using this academic terminology, just be aware of everything that it involves, all the underlying theories and debates that are there. At the same time, however, the people evaluating applications are academics from the same disciplinary background as yours, so it's okay if you want to delve into the intricacies of the topic, but be prepared to defend your arguments in the interview. Yeah, so if you feel that you want to write a fairly technical academic statement, so you can do that. Don't think that people will not be able to understand, since this is a scholarship statement, and there may be people from different backgrounds. That's not the case. They are from the same background as yours, and they will be able to understand everything that you write. But the thing is that whatever you write in the SOP, you should know enough about it to be able to defend your ideas in the interview, because interview is going to be, that's where they actually grill you. So put your SOP and the statement on work experience into conversation with each other. Elaborate more upon those aspects of your work experience that directly or indirectly inform your intellectual curiosities leading to an interest in this course. So when you're writing about your work experience, make sure that it is in some way connected to your statement of purpose, whether directly or indirectly. And you may have done a lot of things, but it's important to focus on those that can be those work experiences and those projects that can be in some way put into conversation with your statement of purpose, so that you're giving them a more comprehensive idea of why you want to pursue this course and what is your work experience, how your work experience informs your choice for this course and your research interest, etc. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Great. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Khushboo and Sanya. As you can see, we already have a lot of questions in chat. And what we're going to, and I see some hands raised as well. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to take the questions, some of the questions in chat that were asked by a few people. So, and then I'll come to the questions to that I'll come to those who've raised their hands. Uh, so I think one question that came up recurrently was, is it okay to apply with an unconditional offer? And if you apply with a conditional offer, you need to fulfill those conditions before you apply for Inlaks. And then I think the third one that came up was, is it just the offer? Do you also need to show that you accepted the offer?
Shall I go with the first one for the unconditional offer? Yes, you require an unconditional offer before one proceeds for to submit the application. But this time, in case you have not received the offer letter, but you have received the confirmation in the email, or if you are waiting for the confirmation, please email info@inlaks.foundation.com, or I'm so sorry, I don't remember the email address, but it's there on the website. Please write to the foundation and tell them about this, and then go forward with submitting your application. The foundation is very very promptly they reply to the emails. So make sure if you have any doubt around your offer or offer letter, or if you're waiting for the offer letter, please write to the foundation.
Yeah, if I can just add to that. So You can apply, I think you can apply with a conditional offer. So I had applied with a conditional offer because I had not yet completed my bachelor's. I had applied for Inlaks in March. My result would have come in June. So there was an academic condition on my offer, but I was pretty sure that I would be able to meet that condition. So I had applied. For example, I had an offer from Oxford, which had an academic condition. I was not sure whether I would be able to meet that condition or not. So just to be safe, I had applied with the Cambridge offer, which I thought I would be able to meet. So yeah, and then once my results came and everything, I could not change. Like I could not shift to Oxford. So once you apply with an offer, that's it. You will not be allowed to change. And the only condition that you need to meet before applying for Inlaks is the language condition. Academic condition, if it's there, that's okay. The language condition is the only thing that you need to meet. Yeah.
So just to clarify, this is that if you have a conditional offer that says that you need, say, a 7.5 on your IELTS score, so when you're applying for Inlaks, you need to have that, you need to have taken the test and have the score to be able to put on the application. Okay, because I think that was another question that was asked as well.
May I interrupt? Yes, ma'am. I had applied to Inlaks last year as well. I had this query, so I had mailed them. So they had replied that you need to have either a conditional or unconditional offer. They did not specify which conditions to be made. So just last year I had applied, so I had this experience. That's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's just that what Sanya and Khushboo were saying, that since the application form asks for an IELTS score or a TOEFL score, it's only if you have a conditional offer, and then you need to show that you've taken the test to be able to meet the condition. But as Sanya said, that you don't need to show that you've met the academic conditions. Another question that came up was, if you have offers from multiple universities, do you need to decide which one you need the Inlaks for, or can you decide once you've gotten the Inlaks which one you want to use a scholarship for?
Yeah, you can only apply with one offer. So you have to decide and then apply with it.
Okay, I'm just trying to club the questions because there were so many. For the question that's about a specific course, or whether a specific course is eligible, just have a look at so the person who's asked about cancer biology and biomedical sciences. Please look at the Inlaks website, and I think we mentioned this in the PPT. If it's not in the list of ineligible courses, then you assume that it is eligible. Uh, so who should be the other referee? So if one is academic, uh, who would you suggest can be the second referee?
Second reference could be a professional reference, and it could also be academic. I'd say if you have graduated recently in last 1 year or 2 years, then having two academic references really helps. And it's easy to because it's around academia, so it's in my case I found that more useful than to add my professional reference. But one can definitely choose. But the reference, because the reference letter has to be on the letterhead, I also found it more easy to get it from my university and from my professors than from my job and my work area.
Also, if you have done like research assistantships with professors who may not be in your university but elsewhere, you can ask them for a letter, and that would also count as an academic reference.
And another question related to reference letters was, what if your professors don't have an institutional email ID?
I didn't face that thing, but it's again anything, and for any queries, instead of assuming if it's not mentioned on the website, please email Inlaks. The foundation is very uh, generous with their time to answer these questions and to help with these queries.
Another question is, what if I don't have an offer letter by 31st March?
I think you need to I don't think they'll consider it up. Like if you receive an offer after the 31st of March, they'll not consider it. So if you are applying by 22nd, and if by the 31st of March you receive some offers, you can reach out to them and upload those offers. But after 31st of March, they will not consider. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Khushboo also mentioned this a couple of times in the presentation that you can, by 22nd March, you need to submit your application. And in the section where you have to upload your offer letter, you can upload the receipt of your application, the confirmation that you've made an application to study a course at a university. And you have till 31st to submit an offer. And you'll see on their website, there's an email ID. And I've also sent the link to the Inlaks website where you'll find all of this information. So just read it a little more carefully and you'll get an idea. Okay, so the questions that related to the statements, I think you asked them before the speaker started talking about it, and they've discussed it in quite a lot of detail. So if there are very specific questions about the statements, I think we won't address what needs to be included in that. Okay, Ansas, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for the sessions. So I have a couple of questions. First one, do they expect the scholars to return to their home country after the scholarship has been done? And second one, have they explicitly mentioned a page limit to the CV? I mean, if my CV is slightly over 2 pages, will it affect my application? And thirdly, about the interviews, how long does both interviews roughly last? And about the second interview, will we get to choose the city, or is it held in only one city? And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I don't think there is any condition. There is no condition that you have to return to your home country after your study. So you can do whatever you want. Then the question about interviews. Mine, I think the first interview lasted for around 45 minutes. And the second interview was also like somewhere between 35 to 40 minutes. Yeah. But it depends, it's not, it's different for everybody. Yeah.
I think I also asked a question about the CV. I mean, if
Sorry, yeah. So CV ideally should be within 2 pages because it's easier for them. But they haven't mentioned anything that it cannot exceed 2 pages. But generally, everywhere, the accepted norm is that it should be within 2 pages. And you might want to restrict it to 2 pages also because you want them to read. You don't want them to just like lose interest and skip over something that you might consider important. So it's good to keep it concise. Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much.
Great. And also, as you would have seen, the portal has a file size limit, so you'll have to be mindful of that. Sanskriti.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for such an informative session. And given that the applications just opened up, this is extremely helpful. I had three questions, two general and one specific. So, with regards to the general question, I wanted to know if you're aware of any specific criteria or parameters that are used for the selection. For instance, when we apply to universities, there are specific criteria of academics or certain demonstration of quality. So, is there something like that here as well? Secondly, with regards to the referee process, is there some emphasis we need to give in the reference letters that will be drafted and submitted by our referees? The third question is a little specific. I have done engineering, and then for 6 years, I worked at the intersection of disability and employment. And now I'm planning to pursue a master's in public policy. I've just received an offer letter from the University of Cambridge. So, what could my technical preparation be if I get the interview call? Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
I'll begin with the LOR thing. So you don't have to like tell your referees for anything, because Inlaks, when sends a email to the Inlaks Foundation itself, and communicates with the referees, and they are sent um, a, a few questions around for the reference, and that's how, like, there are some prompts for them and they get them. So once you have submitted the details for your referees, then it's with the referees to submit it. For the change of field, I'd say to be, as far as I know, because it's around your work experience, then the technical round would be more focused on your work experience, but also on your shift of disciplines. Over to you, Simon.
Sorry, I think were you saying something to me?
Yes, if you'd like to add to the answers, if you'd like to respond.
Okay. Yeah, so as far as your question about specific requirements was concerned, I don't think Inlaks specifies anything in terms of what kind of people they're looking for. So for example, in Commonwealth, you know that they're more interested in people who are working around, development related issues, etc. But Inlaks, I'm not sure. I think if you look at the scholars who have previously been awarded the scholarship, all of them are coming from very, very different backgrounds. So it's difficult to say what exactly they look for, but yeah, I think yeah, it's difficult to answer. But if you are good in your field, and if what I have felt is that they look for something different, like people working on niche topics are able to make successful applications. And yeah, so that I think is true to some extent, but yeah, you should be able to argue your case well. Then LOR, it's, but I think when you ask your referees about LORs, it's important to ask them to highlight certain things that you did under them, like maybe you must have worked on certain projects, etc. And it's good if you ask them to provide some details about what you did. So rather than making that LOR sound very general, where the person is just praising you, it's good if they can highlight some attributes about you and about the way you do your work. So if they're giving specific details, that gives the person reading your application the idea that this referee knows you really well and are able to comment on your ability to work. So yeah, that was it.
Both of this answers my questions. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Great. Karnika, you can ask your question, and then for everyone else who's raised their hands, I'd request you to put your question in chat because we are running short of time. It's already been an hour and a half. So I'm going to try to take as many questions that we can from the chat, and I'll try to club them. And yeah, I'm sorry, we're just really running out of time. So Karnika, unmute
Yeah.
and then we go to chat.
So I just have a couple of questions. So one is with respect to the statement of work experience. So it is with specific reference to your present occupation, but majorly, for example, my present occupation is remotely linked to what I want to do my master's in. I think my internship experiences have more of an effect. So is it okay if I bring in my internship experiences to talk about it instead of my present occupation? That's my first question. And secondly, I think Khushboo mentioned that while like, you know, if you've done I'm not sure if it's Khushboo or Sani, but one of you mentioned that if you've done your let's say like research assistantship in some other university, that can also count as an academic reference. But in my case, I think I did it in a different institution itself. So it was a criminological society. So I'm not sure if it really accounts to a university per se, but would that still amount to a academic reference? So I think just those two questions.
I can talk about the reference thing. So I think it's good if you email them once and confirm this, because it should count as an academic reference, but it's better to email them and ask. Or you can get one reference from your university and then the other one can be from this person. So since you already have an academic reference, doesn't matter if what this one would be counted as. But yeah, if you want, you can ask them as well.
Okay.
I'll add to that. So for my references, I asked one of my former professor, and I asked another person in another university who were my mentor, rather than my professor, and that I think was considered as a professional reference. So that kind of
yeah, thank you. But any insight with respect to the question I asked on the statement of work experience?
So it's okay if your occupation is not related to what you want to do now. That's fine. If like you said, your internships are more connected to it, you can elaborate upon your internships occupation. Maybe if you want to say a few things, you can, but then there is no compulsion that these are the things that you should highlight. Whatever you think is relevant for your course, you can talk about that.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's about it.
Okay. I think there were a few questions about the evidence of funding that you need to mention. So from different sources. So if you could just talk about what kinds of proof can be submitted for funding, and how do you sort of divide the expenses, and how do you gauge how much you need to ask them for? And so, for example, um, do we have to provide proof of the exact amount that is still pending, even if they've already given maximum of the scholarship? Um, yeah, I think just generally, if you can talk a bit more about that.
Yes, in my case, my overall expenditure exceeded my 2 years of overall expenditure exceeded the limit, and I had to share my other sources of funding. So if for anyone it exceeds the limit that's mentioned, it or the application form itself would automatically put a prompt, and there'd be a section for us to add those fundings. In case you have already received any scholarship, or if you already have an approved education loan, that could be also used as a proof that you have already secured some form of additional funds in case the limit exceeds for the amount that you have been asking. I've been seeing a thing about health insurance. So I'd again mention for UK, please go on to .gov.uk website. It has it's clearly mentioned that for that particular year, what's the student health insurance amount is. There's also a calculator to calculate the health insurance amount that one requires during the visa process. If it's your 1-year course, 2-year course, or 3-year course, you just add your course start date and course end date, and it would calculate the amount of health insurance that's required during the visa process. And Inlaks does not fund for the visa. It does not cover the visa fees. It covers health insurance. It covers one-way ticket airfare, and it covers tuition fee and maintenance allowance. That's already mentioned on the website. For US, your universities, please ask the universities to send you the details of the health insurance, and they'd be able to guide you, because some universities have the health insurance thing through the universities itself. For others, it's private health insurance that one needs to take. So it's better to go through the institute that one has applied to get those details. And for Europe, again, as I'm not sure, please ask the universities you have applied to send you those details.
Okay, someone has asked that I don't have a passport yet and might not receive it till before the application deadline. So will that be an issue?
So I applied, I received Inlaks scholarship in my second attempt. In the first attempt, I was waiting for my passport. And I emailed Inlaks, and because it was only a matter of 1 or 2 days that I would have received it, they said okay, but I don't know, that year I didn't get into the interview round. So it could be a lot of other factors, but I was still considering that probably that eligibility criteria was also not fulfilled by me. So it's better to have that if you don't have it, if you don't have your passport already with you, email and share the receipt that you have already applied, and this is the date that you'd be getting it, approx date that you'd be getting your passport with you.
Okay. So for people, so there are a few people who are asking about the official transcripts that need to be submitted. So one is that, is it okay to upload the mark sheets and not the official transcripts? And then for those students who are in their final year of undergraduate or master's degree, would it be okay if they only upload the results of the sessions where they have the grades?
Yeah, so you can upload mark sheets, and I had results only till I had only 4 semesters with me. So yeah, it's okay. Whatever you have, you can submit.
Just on the English language, because again, a couple of people have asked this question. I think if you are keen on waiting to hear from scholarships before you take the English language test, maybe you can email the Inlaks team and ask them if you can not submit the English language score on the application portal. And if they allow you, then that's fine. But it's best to email them, because they might be able to consider your circumstances and allow you an exception, perhaps. Okay, I've also answered some questions in chat already, so please have a look at that. Then another question: do we need to provide any evidence for parents' income certificate? Why evidencing why it's important to get this scholarship?
No, because it's not, as Sanya has already mentioned, it's not a need-based scholarship. So adding that wouldn't leverage the scholarship application anyway. you can add that in case your required amount exceeds the funding amount that is mentioned on the website.
All right, there's one question on the question that is described below your present occupation achievements to date. So I'm already talking a bit about my publications and work experience in my SOP section as they shape my aspirations to pursue the master's. But this question is under the work experience bracket. So do we talk only about these two or achievements that pertain to? I know PORs, but I'm guessing, yeah. So sort of just how do you tackle repetition and sort of what do you include where?
I think it's if you're already talking about your publications in the SOP, it might be a good idea to focus on other things in your work experience, or if you want to mention your publications, you can do that by adding a slightly different dimension to it. So if you're talking about your publications in a certain way in the SOP, just maybe add another layer to it in your work experience statement. Yeah.
Okay.
Miska, I'm seeing a few questions around extracurricular
Yeah.
attainments and stuff, if I could answer that. And for any other achievements and stuff. So achievements and attainables are it's very subjective. Something could be achievement for someone and it might not be for someone else. I did mention some of the things which weren't huge prizes or grants, but I did mention a few things which I found and I thought were the milestones or the goals that I achieved. But I mentioned them in a way that I did this and how I did that. So I think that kind of summed up the achievement part instead of boasting about hey, that's all I have done. It could be very subtle of this was something, a goal that I had and I reached that goal. And it's okay to add other activities if you're volunteered for foundations, if you're volunteered for NGOs or any other places. If you've done internships, you can also add those experiences in extracurricular attainments. It could be sports, it could be other fields that you have explored as well.
Yes. So there's the question, how many scholars are selected per year? Do you have any idea?
They don't have a fixed number, but it's like they have a certain amount every year within which they try to see how many people they can accommodate. So usually it's like it lies somewhere between 8 to 12, doesn't go below 7, 8, and doesn't go above 12, 13. So yeah, that's the range. In my cohort, I think there were 11 people.
Yeah. Another question is it necessary for referees to upload the LORs themselves, or can we upload it on their behalf? Since one of my professors is severely unwell and I don't think she'd be able to upload the LOR herself. She's on leave for 2 to 3 months.
I think in that case, you'll have to probably look for another referee, or because I don't think you can upload it yourself.
Yeah, I'd suggest that you email the Inlaks team and ask them if they're able to provide a way around this. I don't think you can upload it. It has to be uploaded by them because you just have to submit their email and then they get a link. And if they're not able to, then you need to ask scholarship. Okay, another question is, do we need to send an English language test score from the agency, or just my ETRF of IELTS would work? And then what are the things that we can include in the EC attainment section? Like, does it have to be very specific to my PhD degree and topic, or can it be something that highlights my personality outside of class or workspaces, like working with an NGO or something?
I had not given IELTS or any English language exam, so I don't know about that. Maybe Khushboo can tell you.
I took that test, and so you get a result sheet, something. So uh, uh, having a scanned copy of that you could upload, and you'd have to only write the result in their overall band for IELTS overall score over there. I think yeah. Yeah, just TRF of IELTS would work. You don't have to add anything else from the agency.
And what about the extracurricular activities? Do they need to be aligned with your academic work, or do they need to show just how you've engaged with things outside of your academics?
I talk about my personal experience where most of the things were not aligned uh, with my academic pursuits, and they were mostly around something else, but somehow in the larger scheme of things they were connected. So a lot of my volunteering work was not at all related to my chosen field, but there were I feel there were some remarkable works that happened in those fields, and I was interested in them, and I mentioned those. So it kind of depends what you want to even add, because sometimes that would also be asked in the interview as well. So it's really up to the applicant if they want what they want to share and how much they want to share.
Okay, that was one question. Yeah, so are students with a master's degree from an Indian university eligible to apply for another master's through Inlaks? And then second is that for the grade requirement, does that only refer to undergraduate degree, or is it also fine if we meet the grade requirement with our master's degree and then we're applying for another master's, I guess?
You can apply for another master's if you already have a master's degree, but it should be from an Indian university. So yeah, I don't know about the academic requirement thing because I only had my bachelor's. So, yeah.
Great. So there's another question, which is, does the admission committee prefer only top-ranked universities like Oxford, Cambridge, LSE? Or do we have less chances of getting selected if the universities we've selected is not good or is less highly ranked as compared to some others?
I think I can answer that one. So I don't go to any of my university is not in the top ranking university. It's just critically acclaimed course, and if the course or if the university is critically acclaimed or is um, even if it's not in the ranking, but the alumni is well recognized from the university, I think it's most of the time it works, especially for the UK, that kind of works.
Okay, I think we've addressed most of the substantial questions that came up. A lot of the questions that have been asked have already been addressed in the presentation. So if you joined us late, I'd highly recommend that you have a look at the recording of the session. We'll upload the recording on our YouTube channel, and I'll send a link to that just in a bit. And we've also done a workshop on the Inlaks scholarship last year. So if it helps, maybe you can watch a recording of that session as well, and perhaps some of the questions that you have would have been answered there. So yeah, here are some of the links. So a recording of this session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So I've sent a link to our YouTube channel. We also conducted a workshop on Inlaks last year, and you can find that on our website, and I've put a link to that. We've also developed a set of application guides, one of which is writing your personal statement for scholarship application. So if you are starting out on writing this, I'd highly recommend you having a look at that guide, because some of the questions about what are the things you can include and cannot include are already sort of addressed in that guide. We've also done more general sessions on writing your statement of purpose, personal statement, drafting your CV. All of those are on our YouTube channel. So again, I'd recommend that you see those videos as well. If you are not a mentee with us, and if you have any questions that have not been addressed in the session today, you can email us at info@project.eduaccess.com. If you are a mentee with us, then you can reach out to the programs team with your questions, but we'll be in touch with more support for the Inlaks scholarship soon. I think with that, we will end the session. We have another session in around 20 minutes on the LSE Graduate Support Scheme, which is a scholarship to pursue your graduate studies at LSE. So if you are applying to LSE or have already applied, then I'd recommend that you have joined the session. We'll be starting that in another 10 minutes. And that's it. I thank you so much, Khushboo and Saniya, for joining the session and for staying on for 2 hours now. Thank you for being so patient with the questions and being so comprehensive with the presentation as well. Thank you everyone who joined us today. Sorry if we weren't able to address your questions directly, but as I said, a lot of the questions have either already been answered in the presentation or through the Q&A session. So if there's anything that's been that's missed, then please have a look at the recording. And for those who are asking about the next session, you can, I will actually just send the Zoom link here, so just easier for everyone. So for the okay, here is our link tree, and you can find the link to our workshop on the LSE Graduate Support Scheme there, as well as some recordings of our previous workshops. All right. Thank you so much once again, Saniya and Khushboo, and all the best everyone with your applications.